Sign these papers. My mother-in-law slammed a stack of documents onto my desk, making my coffee cup rattle. Her face wore that familiar look of contempt I'd grown used to over the past 5 years. I'm Amanda Chen, 35 years old, and I own one of the most successful tech consulting firms in our city. Well, at least I did until my in-laws decided they wanted to take it from me. What are these? I asked calmly, though my heart was racing. Transfer of ownership papers. It's time you handed the business over to Richard. He has an MBA, He'll know how to run it properly. Richard, my brother-in-law. The golden child who'd never worked a day in his life, but somehow believed he deserved everything handed to him. I looked at my husband, Tom, who stood quietly in the corner of my office. His silence spoke volumes. After 12 years of marriage, he still couldn't stand up to his mother. This is my company, I said firmly. I built it from nothing. My mother-in-law laughed, that shrill, condescending laugh that always made my skin crawl. Oh, please. Everyone knows your grandfather handed you the seed money. You just got lucky. Besides, your family now, and in this family, the men handle the business decisions. I thought back to my grandfather, who passed away 6 months ago. He was more than just my grandfather. He was my mentor, my inspiration. Yes, he had helped me start my business, but not in the way they thought. Margaret, I addressed my mother-in-law. I won't be signing anything. She straightened her designer blazer, her perfectly manicured nails tapping impatiently on my desk. You ungrateful little. Do you know how much we've done for you? We welcomed you into our family despite your background. The least you could do is show some appreciation. By background, she meant being half Chinese and coming from a middle-class family. They never let me forget that I wasn't from their social circle. Mom, Tom finally spoke up, but his voice was weak. Maybe we should discuss this at home. No, Thomas. I've had enough of your wife's attitude. Either she signs the papers or what? I asked, my voice steady. Or we'll make sure everyone knows how you really got your start. About the money your grandfather gave you. About the connections we provided. Where do you think your biggest clients came from? They're all our friends. I had to suppress a smile. If only they knew the truth about those clients. Just then, my office phone buzzed. Mrs. Chen, Mr. Harrison is here to see you. He says it's urgent. Perfect timing. Send him in, I replied. The door opened, and in walked James Harrison, my grandfather's lawyer. He carried a leather briefcase and wore an expression that meant business. Mrs. Chen, I apologize for interrupting, but it's time. My mother-in-law's eyes narrowed. Time for what? The reading of Gerald Chen's final will and testament. The real one. What do you mean, real one? Tom asked, finally showing some interest. I stood up, smoothing my skirt. You see, the will that was read 6 months ago wasn't the complete version. My grandfather had a second will sealed until today, exactly 6 months after his death. Mr. Harrison opened his briefcase and pulled out a thick envelope. Shall we begin? My mother-in-law's face had lost some of its color, but she quickly recovered. This is ridiculous. We're in the middle of an important business discussion. Oh, you'll want to hear this, I said, finally allowing myself a small smile. It's about the business after all. As Mr. Harrison began to read, I watched the color drain completely from my in-laws' faces, because what they were about to learn would change everything, not just about my business, but about every assumption they'd made about me for the past 12 years. My grandfather's final gift to me wasn't just money or property. It was something far more valuable. The truth about who really owned what in this family and how deep the connections really went. And as the lawyer continued reading, I realized this was just the beginning of a much bigger storm that was about to hit the Chen family. Mr. Harrison cleared his throat and began reading. I, Gerald Chen, being of sound mind, declare this to be my final will and testament, superseding all previous versions. My mother-in-law interrupted. We've already heard this part 6 months ago. Get to the point. Mr. Harrison gave her a cold look before continuing. However, the following provisions were to remain sealed for 6 months after my death, to allow certain events to unfold naturally. I noticed Tom shifting uncomfortably by the window. He knew something. I could tell by the way he couldn't meet my eyes. To my granddaughter, Amanda Chen, I leave not only my personal fortune as previously stated, but also reveal the following. The Chen Global Holdings, currently believed to be owned by the Chen family, has been under my majority ownership for the past 20 years. The silence in the room was deafening. My mother-in-law's face turned an interesting shade of purple. That's impossible. My husband built that company. Actually, Margaret, I finally spoke up. Your husband nearly bankrupted it in 2003. My grandfather stepped in and bought 67% of the shares, saving it from collapse. He kept it quiet to spare your family's reputation. You're lying, she shrieked. Mr. Harrison pulled out another document. I have the original purchase agreements here, along with 20 years of board meeting minutes. Tom finally found his voice. Dad told me something about this last year. He made me promise not to tell anyone. I turned to him, hurt flooding my chest. You knew? All this time? I didn't know everything. Just that there was some deal with your grandfather. Mr. Harrison continued reading. Furthermore, all clients currently associated with Chen Global Holdings were originally contacted and secured through my personal business network, not through the Chen family connections as they have claimed. My mother-in-law sank into a chair, her designer blazer wrinkled and her perfect hair coming undone. The final revelation, Mr. Harrison read, concerns the tech consulting firm owned by my granddaughter, Amanda. While I did provide initial guidance, I never gave her any seed money. She built it entirely on her own merit, securing loans and investors through her own business plan and reputation. I remembered those early days, the countless pitches, the late nights, the rejected applications. My grandfather had insisted I do it on my own, saying true respect comes from what you build yourself. However, Mr. Harrison continued, I did secretly arrange for her firm to be given fair consideration by several major clients. The same clients the Chen family has been taking credit for providing. I wanted to see if she could maintain and grow those relationships on her own merit. The results speak for themselves. Richard burst into the office then, his face red with anger. This is ridiculous. You can't just come in here and claim our family company. I stayed calm. The ownership documents prove everything. Your father has known the truth for 20 years. Dad would never. Your father signed the papers himself. Mr. Harrison interjected, pulling out more documents. In fact, he left additional instructions to be revealed today. He produced another envelope. This letter is from Howard Chen, written 3 months ago. My mother-in-law's head snapped up. Howard wrote a letter. Mr. Harrison began reading. To my family, if you're hearing this, it means Gerald's will has been revealed. Everything he said is true. I made terrible business decisions 20 years ago, and he saved not just our company, but our family's reputation. In return, I promised to keep his majority ownership secret and to watch over his granddaughter when she married my son. Tom moved closer to me, his face pale. Dad never said. The letter continued. I've watched Amanda build her business from nothing. While my family treated her as an outsider, I saw what Gerald saw. A brilliant businesswoman who earned every bit of her success. I was too much of a coward to stand up to my wife and son's prejudices, and for that, I am deeply ashamed. Tears were rolling down my cheeks now. Howard, my father-in-law, had always been quiet, but I'd never known he felt this way. Therefore, Mr. Harrison read, I, Howard Chen, hereby announce my retirement as CEO of Chen Global Holdings, effective immediately upon the reading of this letter. I recommend Amanda Chen as my successor, subject to board approval, which Gerald's majority share will ensure. The room erupted in chaos. This is outrageous, my mother-in-law screamed. Richard knocked over a chair. She can't run both companies. Actually, I said quietly, I can. I've been preparing for this for the past 6 months. My company's management team is ready to take over day-to-day operations while I focus on Chen Global Holdings. Tom stared at me. You knew? All this time you knew? I found out the day after grandfather died. He left me a private letter explaining everything. He wanted me to wait, to let the truth come out naturally, to give everyone a chance to show their true colors. My mother-in-law stood up, straightening her blazer one final time. This isn't over. We'll fight this in court. Mr. Harrison smiled for the first time. You can certainly try, Mrs. Chen. But I've spent the last 20 years documenting everything. Every insult, every attempt to undermine Amanda, every discriminatory comment, all documented and witnessed. Do you really want that becoming public record? She froze. Additionally, he continued, I have here several documents showing questionable financial transactions made by Richard through company accounts over the past 5 years. Richard's face went white. Those were approved expenses. Personal vacation homes and luxury cars charged to the company. I doubt the IRS would agree. Tom finally stepped forward, standing beside me. Enough. Mom, Richard, it's over. Amanda has earned this. You're taking her side? Richard spat. After everything we've done for you. Yes, Tom said firmly. For the first time in our marriage, I'm doing what I should have done years ago. Supporting my wife. My mother-in-law grabbed her designer bag. I won't forget this betrayal. Any of it. She stormed out, Richard following close behind. When they were gone, Tom turned to me. I'm so sorry, Amanda. I knew bits and pieces, but I never. I held up my hand. We'll talk about this later. Right now, I have a company to run. 2 companies, actually. Mr. Harrison packed up his briefcase. Everything is in order, Mrs. Chen. The board meeting is scheduled for tomorrow morning. Your grandfather believed you would face this moment with grace and strength. I see he was right. After you left, I sat at my desk, looking at the photo of my grandfather I kept there. His kind eyes seemed to twinkle with pride. Tom lingered by the door. What happens now? I picked up the ownership transfer papers his mother had brought in and dropped them in the shredder. Now we see who in this family is strong enough to accept change. As I watched the papers turn to confetti, I couldn't help but smile. My grandfather had given me one final lesson about business, family, and the price of truth. But this was just the middle of the story. Because tomorrow, I would walk into Chen Global Holdings as its new CEO. And that's when the real challenge would begin. The next morning, I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting my suit jacket. Today would change everything. Are you ready? Tom asked from the doorway. I've been ready for 6 months, I replied, picking up my briefcase. The question is, are you ready for what's about to happen to your family? He stepped forward, taking my hand. They're not just my family anymore. We're a family, and I'm done choosing the wrong side. The drive to Chen Global Holdings was tense. Security had already been notified about the change in leadership, and as we pulled up to the executive parking area, I saw Richard's car was already there. He's not going to make this easy, Tom warned. Good, I said, stepping out of the car. I didn't build my own company by taking the easy path. The boardroom was full when we arrived. 12 board members, all men over 60, sat around the massive mahogany table. Richard and my mother-in-law sat at one end, while Howard Chen, my father-in-law, sat quietly at the other. Mr. Harrison was already there, documents spread before him. You can't seriously be considering this, my mother-in-law was saying as we walked in. She'll destroy everything we've built. Everything you built? Howard's quiet voice cut through the room. It was the first time I ever heard him speak up against his wife. Margaret, it's time for truth. We almost lost everything 20 years ago because of my poor decisions. Gerald Chen saved us. And now his granddaughter will save us again. Howard, she gasped. No, Margaret, I've been quiet too long. He stood up, addressing the board. Gentlemen, I fully support Amanda Chen as the new CEO of this company. She has proven herself not just as a successful business owner, but as someone who understands the modern market in ways we failed to grasp. Richard slammed his hand on the table. This is insane. She's not even a real Chen. Actually, Mr. Harrison interjected. According to these documents, she has more right to the Chen name than you do, Richard. Would you like me to explain why? Richard's face went pale. He knew what those documents would reveal about his own business dealings. The board chairman cleared his throat. We've reviewed the ownership documents and Howard's recommendation. Given Gerald Chen's majority share and his explicit wishes, combined with Mrs. Chen's proven track record in the tech sector, I believe we should proceed with the vote. My mother-in-law stood up. If you do this, you'll regret it. I know things about this company, about all of you. Mom, Tom interrupted. Stop. Don't make this worse. Worse? She laughed hysterically. Your wife is stealing our company. No, I finally spoke. I'm saving it. Again, would you like to see the company's current financial reports? The ones Richard has been hiding from the board? Richard jumped up. You can't prove anything. Actually, Howard said, pulling out a USB drive, I can. I've been gathering evidence for months. Did you really think I wouldn't notice the money you were funneling to your private accounts? The board chairman's face darkened. What money? Over the next hour, the truth came out. Richard had been embezzling funds, hiding losses, and falsifying reports. My mother-in-law had been aware but kept quiet, using the information to blackmail her way into more control. When the vote came, it was unanimous. I was named CEO of Chen Global Holdings, effective immediately. Your first act should be calling the authorities, one board member suggested, glaring at Richard. No, I said firmly. My first act will be offering Richard and his mother a choice. Everyone turned to look at me. Option 1. You both resign quietly, sign non-disclosure agreements, and I don't pursue criminal charges for the embezzlement. You'll retain your personal shares but have no operational control. And option 2, Richard asked, his voice shaking. I turn everything over to the FBI. Every transaction, every hidden account, every piece of evidence Howard and my grandfather collected, your choice. My mother-in-law's facade finally cracked. You would show mercy. After everything? I'm not doing it for you, I replied. I'm doing it for this company, its employees, and its legacy. A public scandal helps no one. They took option 1, of course. Richard and my mother-in-law left the building that day, never to return. The press release simply stated they had chosen to pursue other opportunities. Over the next year, I reorganized both companies, merging my tech consulting firm's innovation with Chen Global's resources. Profits doubled. Employee satisfaction soared. The board's initial skepticism turned to wholehearted support. Tom found his own path too, starting a charitable foundation that helped immigrant entrepreneurs, his way of making amends for his family's past behavior. Howard became one of my closest advisors, his quiet wisdom helping me navigate the challenges of running a major corporation. He and Tom rebuilt their relationship on a foundation of truth rather than fear. My mother-in-law moved to Florida, where she apparently tells anyone who will listen that she retired early to enjoy the sunshine. Richard took a job with a small firm in another state, humbled by his fall from grace. As for me, I kept my grandfather's photo on my desk, both at the office and at home. His final gift wasn't just the company, it was the chance to prove that success doesn't come from family names or connections, but from hard work, integrity, and the courage to stand up for what's right. Last week, as I sat in my grandfather's old office, my office now, Tom brought our daughter by after school. She's 7, and already shows the same determination I had at her age. Mommy, she asked, looking around the big office, will I run the company someday? I smiled, thinking of my grandfather's words. True respect comes from what you build yourself. That's up to you, sweetheart, I told her. You can run this company, start your own, or do anything else you dream of. The most important thing is to do it your way, with integrity and strength. She nodded solemnly, then brightened. Like you did. Yes, I said, hugging her close. Exactly like that. After they left, I looked out over the city skyline, thinking about how much had changed in just 1 year. Sometimes the hardest battles aren't fought in boardrooms or with lawyers, but within families where love and duty clash with truth and justice. But in the end, the truth always comes out. And when it does, you find out who really deserves to be called family. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more stories. See you in the next video.